Oh, hi folks. I hope you're well. Thanks for the kind comments. I'm trying to improve my posture, so that's why I'm sitting up here. Um, because I have been a bit of a slouch lately, and I'm ended up tight-shouldered. Anyway, good to see you. Um, yeah, you've probably heard a bit of this before, but it bears repeating. I'll just adjust here. How's about that then? Um, Appreciate your comments historically. Thank you very much. And it's always nice to get feedback, and welcome back to those people who've suddenly found my channel again. Isn't it a delight? I hope so. Um, it's a bit of an old coconut, but it's a really important one because it shows you how easily the general public is duped. Now, it's understandable, but what I want to talk about in this video really is the ease in which we're all duped. If it's on the telly, it's got to be right, innit? Is the usual guff, my favourite word lately. Bullshit. It sounds better than bullshit, doesn't it? Guff. Same. But, you know, I watched live, quite frankly, allegedly live anyway, I'm old enough, the moon landing, the first moon landing, the alleged moon landing. Yes, I saw that with the Apollo lot before it became the shuttle. That's another screaming joke, isn't it, really? But yes, I watched and I saw the first black and white moon pictures. And like a lot of people, we all crowded around our TV at home and watched with awe. There's little white men bobbing about, and the eagle has landed in one small step for... Yes, I listened to that on TV. And I was suckered into this, obviously. I was only very young, of course. But the adults were too. It was like, wow, ooh, you know. We've landed on the moon and, you know. But you and I both know, and a few million more know that the whole thing is a complete scam. But it's only in the latter years, really, we know now, we are flooded with technology in our lives that even now cannot do what is required of it to get human beings on the moon. Okay, so that is, of course, assuming that the moon is a ball, because there's no real confirmation of that either, because nobody's ever been able to photograph the dark side of the moon, have they? That's a good album. The Chinese or whoever they are that reckon they've been around the dark side of the moon, and yeah, okay. We will never really get to grips with that until later on in our lives, I suppose, if we survive long enough. But anybody knows Stanley Kubrick, who spilled the beans. He did all the organising the footage of the moon landing in a studio, in Pinewood Studios, actually, in Britain. Yes. And they got a bit too close to comfort with old Stanley. He was going to blow the whistle. And yes, the moon landing was shot in the United Kingdom. The film footage for that, the black and white stuff. And yeah, I think it was Pinewood Studios in London. I can't remember if it was Pinewood or not. It was certainly shot in England anyway. That's about as close as we got to walking on the moon. Very simple. And then there's all sorts of debunking videos hit the scene, and yet the astronauts, including Buzz Aldrin, who's still kicking, I understand, his death was faked. His deathbed confession was faked, etc. But I had to look it up, quite frankly, because I don't keep track on such people. He's not that much of interest to me, because if you look at the forget the technical side of the obvious downfall. I mean, I had a calculator when I was very tiny. I remember that we had mechanical calculators, Yes, my father brought one home once for us to play with. We were one step up from a slide rule at that stage. And then we found the first LED type calculators, didn't we? Do you remember those? And Sinclair bought out a lovely little scientific calculator, which is a bit like Beam Me Up Scotty sort of size. And that was fabulous. They're about equivalent to, I don't know, a couple of £100 in them days. My father bought one home and showed it, a little white one. He coveted this thing because all I wanted to do was play with it at the time. And it had LED. It was a beautiful little thing. Sinclair. Clive Sinclair developed that. And so the bog standard calculators we took to school, were the big ones, the LEDs, and we used to type in 3, 4, 5 something or other and turn it upside down, make a little word hello, and joking around like that, but in your face LEDs with batteries, you know, the big ones. And that was the best we could get. But look at what they took to the moon. What amazed me about the module as it landed on the moon is that when it settled down and they took these photographs, well, there was no dust blown up, was there, by the rockets? And furthermore, how can a rocket exist in an alleged vacuum? It's, you know, the space is either water, which I suspect it is, or it's a vacuum, which I don't even think it is. Because there is no vacuum in space. Because if there was a vacuum in space, folks, okay, liquid boils if you expose it to a vacuum. If you have a cup of water and you put it into a machine, an airtight machine, and create a negative vacuum, would-be negative vacuum behind it, the water boils. So any human being's bodily fluid, all 97% of us being water, our blood would boil if we were exposed to a vacuum, spacesuit or not. So what a lot of nonsense that there is, if there is a vacuum in space, that the moon is there. And no, the moon is within our firmament, folks, okay? That's all. The moon and the sun are within our firmament. All right? They're the two planets above our head that are within our firmament. The sun and the moon are the same size, okay? And they go round and round the garden, I've said before. Well, come on, you know, look at the evidence. It's in our faces now. We're not stupid. We're a bit more advanced now than people were in the 60s, strangely enough. And even now, NASA is still trying to pull this old flanker and in denial, and all these CGI images that have been produced of the world, we know it as a ball sphere taken from outer space. They've been computer generated images. Okay, because if they'd been on the moon, they could have easily, with their lovely Hasselblads they had available, that they were using on the moon, could have taken a picture of Earth. The ball, not. That's why. And so come on, you know, anybody who thinks that we've been walking around on the moon is kidding themselves. Nice thought, but we don't have, even now, the technology to put things on the moon. We truly don't. Many have tried, but we can't. We can't even photograph the dark side of the moon. That's one thing then. I've exhausted that, but still Buzz Aldrin's going round saying, yes, we did. No, we didn't. I can't wait to hear the deathbed confessions when it truly does happen, if he's not taken unannounced, that is. If he ends up in an intensive care bed, he might just say, I want to put the record straight. We're all under duress. You know, they're going to kill my family if we... Yeah, of course. Well, they killed Stanley Kubrick, didn't they? Oh, yeah, they did. So that's him who did Eyes Wide Shut as well. He was blowing the whistle, folks, in so many ways to us. He was giving us so many clues that it's all bullshit from NASA. NASA stands for Never a Straight Answer. Okay. But we have to look at the other bullshit that's continuously spouted off, not just by NASA, but most people who are convinced that there's an outer space out there. Well, more to be pitied than scorned, I think. Because we're expected to swallow such a lot of guff, aren't we, in our lives? And we're getting a bit more savvy to that now. And if you look at the 4 astronauts that were being interviewed by the press when they allegedly got rescued, cleaned up and got decontaminated and put back in front of the cameras, they all looked like they'd lost a pound and found a penny, because they were all ordered, lie through your teeth or your family is history. That's not a nice thing for Americans to do to one another, is it? And we are continually expected to believe the bullshit that the governments say and organisations like that say. And it thoroughly pisses me off, quite frankly, that they seem to think, even now, what would they say? If they came clean, it's a bit like, when if you've been unfortunate enough to have a partner say to you, I've been having an affair for since the 60s. You had to keep that quiet. Well, do you forgive me? This is, what do they expect? What do you think you see, as Shakespeare said, the truth will out eventually? And that's what's going to happen. It's what's happening now with Europe being exposed for this bunch of bastards that they are. We are in this information age, and the only fantastic thing as far as the internet for me is concerned is it allows us to double check the media, because one of the public enemies #1, folks, is that lying piece of shit in the corner of your living room called the television. I don't watch the television, I watch Netflix. That's it. Or I go on the internet and I watch YouTube. That's it. That's my entire existence. Because I don't read newspapers, I don't even look at them in passing because I'm zero interested. I cannot believe the bullshit that people swallow. It breaks my heart. I think I want to get those believers and sit them down and say, slap them around the face and say, for Christ's sake, will you wake up and smell the coffee? Because we are a breeze, aren't we? We are. We just put the news on. I want to listen to the news. But what's on the news? The news will tell us the truth, not. The news will tell you what they've been told to tell us. From start to finish. It's one lie after another after another. And it at this stage, come on now with the internet and everybody communicating, mobile phones, texting, you name it. It's amazing now that people still think that we have satellites going round and round and around the world, hanging up there in outer space. No. No, we don't. No, we don't, because there is no way that you can have something whizzing around up there. We can't get them past the firmament into the alleged vacuum even if we could get through the firmament. There is no way that satellites go round and round. If anything, the satellites that we are relying upon are stuck on helium balloons, and they are released from, get this, Antarctica, and they are positioned in places around or along the surface of the sky. I wouldn't say we're around, but they're in low Earth orbit and they're hung by helium balloons. And just occasionally the helium balloons leak and the satellites become out of the specific height they're designed to work or tuned to and out of position. And guess what? An aeroplane comes along with a sky hook, hooks around the helium balloon up here and the satellite is here. They got a wire. They hook that wire and they pull it back into the back of a transport aircraft while it's flying along and pull the whole bloody thing back in, fly to Antarctica, land, repair the satellite, recharge the helium, reposition the satellite, and Bob's your uncle. It's back in service. But I do a lot of stargazing with telescopes and my P900 super duper zoom. But the telescope's the thing. I've yet to see satellites all over. There's estimated to be 1.3 million satellites whizzing around the world. Do me a favour. You would see them on a telescope, wouldn't you? It'd be like a space junk. And with all those things whizzing around outside of our Earth, yeah, how does the Challenger get to the moon? Come on, without being hit by a bloody satellite whizzing around the Earth. The satellite, the Challenger. I mean, the Challenger people that died in, I think it was Challenger 7, could have been. Those astronauts, the alleged astronauts that got killed in the explosion, it's rather strange that every one of them, bar one, who had a natural death, by the way, okay, but they didn't. There was no astronauts died on that Challenger. None. They weren't bloody on it. That's all. And all those people that were allegedly on the Challenger were given a special deal to shut their mouths, and they'll be put in positions of their wish, and as a reward to shutting their mouth under death, and they'll be put in, and they've been placed in positions of their liking. And there's a video on YouTube. You can see, you can just type in "nobody died on the Challenger" and see. And they got the photo of them and the photo of the person they are now still, and you match them up and you look, and they are absolutely, bar one of them who had a natural death and was going to comply but died, a man. But the rest of them are all in jobs of their dreams. Yes, they got promoted and moved into positions that they wanted if they keep their mouth shut. Okay, and that was the big reason they scrapped the Challenger program, wasn't it? We can't have this again. We can't lose another 7 astronauts, NASA, NASA. Not another 7 astronauts, NASA. What a scam it all is. So we believe that. We not only believe we live on a ball, allegedly, we believe that we've put man on the moon. Oh, really? Yeah, and we believe that satellites whiz around every night. If you look closely, you can see them pass by. Oh, really? Serious? How many? Oh, billions. There's got to be. Every week they're shooting them off, allegedly. You've got to have satellites, otherwise GPS won't work. Global positioning satellites. It's not. They're not. They're not. There are no satellites. What about our telly then? Shoots the satellite dish on the side of my house. Yeah, the dish goes to the satellite in the sky. No, it doesn't. The signal bounces off the firmament. That's all. Or it looks like it's going to hit the sky, but it goes to a repeater station, and that passes the parcel. 97% of the internet traffic, folks, on this world goes via fibre optic cable under the sea. And that cable was laid in the 50s and 60s. They knew the internet was coming. This deception plan has been going for a long time. The internet cables that are literally that fat, okay, you can put billions of bits of information down one little hair of a fibre optic cable. Billions. Imagine what it was like if the cable was that fat, jam-packed, rolled out. Oh, what's that ship doing on the sea? I don't know, it's got a big roll of something. It's unloading it off the side of their boat. They're probably ditching it. No, they were laying fibre optic cable under the sea. Okay? all to primarily America. 97% of Americans get their internet from under the sea. And so do we get it back from under the sea. Not the satellites, because there ain't any satellites. That's that, you know, why do people still think that? Why do people still think that we live on a ball when the evidence is right in our faces? It's called sea level because it's level. That's all. Water will always find its level. It's screamingly obvious to me. And yet people still are in denial, this place in Egypt. I mean, just look at the Egyptians. I mean, the pyramids are at least 2,000 years were completed before the Egyptians turned up at the bloody scene. All they did was break in and decorate. But the amazing thing is, if it's the Egyptians that did all this because they had their technology and their knowledge, what about all the other pyramids around the world where there weren't any Egyptians? The ones that suddenly Graham, whatever his name is, can't remember his surname now, Hancock I think his name is, what about the ones under the sea? What about the pyramids all over the world? What would they do? They, have pyramid will travel Egyptians or something? There was no mummies found in the Egyptian pyramids, folks. None. None. And here's the funny. We talk about Tutankhamun and who discovered him and all this. He died because he got bit by he got a curse put upon him because he got a bite from a mosquito and it was a curse of Tutankhamun. Hang on a minute. The Tutankhamun, all the pharaoh stuff that was discovered, Tutankhamun's tomb, right, was raped of a majority of the treasure and resealed. That's what we found. And I can almost guarantee you it's the bankers that took that. Because Tutankhamun's tomb was, when you consider, it was a bit sparse, really. The goodies had been gone. It's like everything else. Carter, wasn't it, who discovered that? Well, he died of a mosquito bite, obviously to keep his trap shut, just in case it leaked out that the place had already been rifled by the rich 1%ers. Okay, it is, I mentioned last night, the Lombard Bank of the world. It's a private banking cartel of some seriously rich families. Yeah. Well, where do they get all this wealth? Where do they get all this gold? Well, at the end of the day, folks, it is those who decide. And they will decide what is written in our textbooks in our schools, the education our kids get, because they pay for everything. And he who pays the money picks the tune. If you pay the piper, they pick the tune. All our history is completely mashed up. You may as well just forget it and start all over again and do your own due diligence. Carter was pissed off because it looked like that Tutankhamun's goodies had been disturbed before. Where was all the gold? These people were gold fanatics, and yet there was very little gold in the Tutankhamun's crypt tomb. But you cannot explain why the world has got lots of other little pyramids. We concentrate and become obsessed. Ask anybody, where are the pyramids? Oh, in Egypt. Well, there's pyramids all over the world, isn't there? You see, the other bullshit we have to understand that we're we just routinely believe. Do you know, it doesn't matter a shit, does it, really, what we believe? What we believe is inconsequential to them. That's all. That I am suspect, very suspect, of the fire, the burning the great library of Alexander. No, no, the Romans weren't in the habit of doing that sort of thing. Those were shipped off. That knowledge was shipped off and now resides in the base of the Vatican. There's lots and lots and lots of private collections of books, folks, that the average person in the world won't ever, ever, ever have access to, because the knowledge is so bloody revealing. That's all. I go metal detecting, okay, and I find that I found a couple of Roman coins that are quite valuable, and they are 2012 years old, 2012 years old, silver coins. They're beautiful. I wish I should have them here to show you. I'll do that sometime. And I got them 12 inches, no, 10 inches below the surface with my metal detector. And they come out as good, almost as good as they went in, because they're silver. And the same with gold coins that you find metal detecting. They don't degrade. They come out as good as they go in. And I found a couple of sovereigns in my life as well. I tell a lie, one sovereign and a half sovereign. Both wonderful condition. Not a lot of money, I know, but it's, you know, it's an enjoyment. It gets me out. You know? And it gives me a lot of pleasure. But to think that holding that coin in my hand, that would have been held by somebody 2,000 years ago. That's what it's all about. You know, I'm holding something that was used by a human 2,000 years ago. Well, here's the same deal. Go on to any pebble in the beach and pick a pebble up and know potentially that pebble is not millions of years old, it is billions of years old. And yet it was millions on the beach. There is nothing on this earth that is destroyed nor created, quite frankly. You see, everything we use, my VAP, cotton, plastic, all the ingredients for such things are surrounding us. We just put a different use, mix it up a bit, hammer, 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 and produce. Get it all down to the basic elements of what it's made of. They've been here all the time. Okay? There is nothing new on the face of this earth. Nothing. Apart from us. All the non-living things have been here since it all began. And it wasn't a big bang. And we're expected to believe, with all our wonders of the world nowadays, such bullshit. Who do they think they're kidding, Mr. Hitler? When they think we believe such crap. Who, the arrogance of it, to think that we are stupid enough to believe this nonsense. The sad thing is, a minority of people now believe it. Why not the majority? What I'm saying is, we are still so dumb. And the other unfortunate thing is that the majority of people don't seem to give a shit. They're living in the now. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that global warming is a non-event. It truly doesn't. And CO2 is a big danger for everybody. Well, you tell that to the plants. And without plants, we'd all die. That's a fact, because there wouldn't be any oxygen produced. The world knows what it's doing. It's us idiots that don't. Well, some of us idiots do. Current company accepted. But a majority of people wouldn't understand. They wouldn't be able to hazard a guess of why it's a lot of nonsense that CO2 global warming caused by the buildup of CO2. And they throw these things around. Yeah, but it's the ozone layer, innit? We're killing the ozone layer. Oh, tell me, what does ozone do? Well, I don't know. How is ozone created then? Can you tell me that? You know a lot about ozone. You keep spouting on about it. What does ozone do? What's the benefit to human beings of ozone and the world? You tell me. Well, I don't know, but we're killing it, aren't we? We're destroying it. Global warming, isn't it, though? This is what we're surrounded by. What a waste of DNA that person is. There's no excuse for ignorance, folks, not with the internet now. It used to be an excuse when you had to buy the Encyclopedia Britannica, which was published by the 1%ers anyway. Well, the truth will set us free. Oh, for sure. That is a seriously true statement. But it can also entrap us. Because sometimes you wonder if you can handle the truth. Because it is so catastrophic and damaging to learn the truth sometimes. You cannot believe how ignorant we all are and have become. And the sadder thing about that is that most people don't really give a shit how ignorant they are. That's the sadness. Because we're such selfish bastards nowadays. We don't think a generation ahead or two, do we? No, we're all the immediate gratification jerks. I want it. When do you want it? I want it now. That's what it's all about. Never mind the future, my children and my grandchildren, or yours. No, what's in it for me now? That's all. The world is full of trickery, and the world is full of selfish bastards. Unfortunately, we have to work and live with these people. The ignorant masses. It's ever likely that the 1%ers find us a breeze to control. In closing, I would simply say this. Anybody thinks we're going to Brexit on time, I better sit down and have another drink and get well soon. And you know, I'm planning on taking bets online, but I don't think it'll work. But I guarantee that there will be a delay in Brexit. Technically, they're not allowed to delay Brexit. But you know these slime balls? Oh, we forgot about that. We can use that clause that nobody seems to know. And we can use it to delay Brexit. Just that little bit longer. No. I'd be curious to see what your opinion is. But I'll be a happy bunny the day we Brexit. I'll believe it when I see it. These bastards are pushing for a revote. And do you know what? It's quite feasible that they'll get offered one. What do you think? Catch you tomorrow. Be careful who and what you believe. It's all one big illusion and one big lie. Ask Buzz Aldrin. Oh, but he'll only lie.